Network and the Professional Bowlers Association tonight presents the $130,000 Columbia Senior Touring Pro Doubles from the Super Bowl lanes at Erlanger, Kentucky. Tonight's telecast is being brought to you by Columbia 300. By True Value Hardware. More than just a name, it's their way of doing business. By Seagram's Wine Cooler, it's wet and it's dry. Here's a preview of tonight's matches. In the opening game, Steve Wunderlich and his coach, Billy Walden, will bowl against a very talented team, Dave Husted, and also ABC Hall of Famer Bob Strampe. The winner of that game will then take on Carmen, Salvino, and Jimmie Pritts Jr. The semifinal matchup will have John Gant and also Bill Allen, the only doubles team left-handed on the telecast this evening. And in the #1 slot, it's Joe Berardi and also the talented Teata Semiz. Hello, everybody. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to the Super Bowl lanes in Erlanger, Kentucky, for the finals of the $130,000 Columbia Senior Touring Pro Doubles Championship. The Bluegrass State is widely renowned for its outstanding horse racing. And without a doubt, Mike Durbin, even though there are no fillies on the telecast this evening, there are some thoroughbreds in the stable tonight.
Well, Denny, we have 3 Hall of Famers on our telecast tonight. Every one of our 10 players on the telecast tonight is a champion. We've got some storied names: Bill Allen, Bob Strampe, Carmen Salvino. I'm looking forward to an exciting evening.
Should be an unbelievable evening. As Mike has mentioned, the cast for tonight's telecast, loads of experience from the senior players and some outstanding young contemporary pros.
Some of our young contemporary pros: Steve Wunderlich, who won this title last year; Dave Husted, the hottest player on the PBA Tour; Jimmie Pritts, who's been in a slump, hopes to break out of it here; and then we'll see Joe Berardi for the first time this summer.
You mentioned Steve Wunderlich. He'll team up with Billy Walden. That's an outstanding duo, and they're, of course, in the opening match.
And we're going to take a couple of contrasting styles here from student and coach. Steve Wunderlich on our left exemplifies the contemporary player. 5 steps, pretty free swing, heavy lift at the bottom of the swing, throws the big hook. He's square at the line, good follow through. Look at that left arm back. Walden, pretty free swing, not quite as square, a little more bent over, throws the ball straighter, doesn't miss any spares. Billy is exceptionally tough in the clutch. He struck to win the PBA Seniors Championship last year, so it should be a good combination between these two. They know one another's games.
Combinations, boy, a dynamite combination in the other opening game. As far as the other team is concerned, Dave Husted and Bob Strampe, they have bowled exceptionally well all week long.
Well, I've been an admirer of Bob Strampe throughout his entire career. He's a fierce competitor, and Dave Husted has just been outstanding all summer long. This is his 4th appearance in the championship round this summer. He has 2 wins and a second so far. He's hoping to get that 3rd win tonight. We see his style on the left there. 5-step player, free swing with a high backswing, then watch him lift or hit the ball at the bottom of the swing. Of the 10 players warming up today, he's by far the most confident. Strampe, more controlled swing, intense. Bob Strampe hates to lose. He's a competitor all the way. He has what you call true grit.
True grit. Now, Mike, let's stop for a second here. The touring pros battle it out every week against tough competition to try and make money. The seniors come out a couple of times a year, but they do enjoy themselves when they compete with the touring pros.
Well, the seniors especially enjoy bowling in this particular tournament and the one we're going to have next week. But they want to bowl with the modern contemporary player. They want to get back into action and really see how they can do against today's younger player. The touring player, I think, enjoys it from the aspect that it's marrying the 2 generations of bowling, the pioneers of the sport with the up-and-comers. So I'm really looking forward to a good night of bowling tonight.
It should be outstanding in the opening match coming up here in the Columbia Seniors Touring Pro Doubles. It's Steve Wunderlich and Billy Walden against Dave Husted and Bob Strampe. Welcome back, and the seniors and their pro partners finishing up a couple of practice tosses here at the Super Bowl lanes in Erlanger, Kentucky. Mike, I know you're excited about tonight's telecast.
Well, it gives us a chance to talk about the format tonight, where one player from one team is going to be bowling on the left lane and his partner bowling on the right lane. So one player is bowling the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th frames. The other player, all the even frames. And what they do is they pick the fellow that they think can come through in the 10th frame the best to finish out that match.
Would you suspect, Mike, that the best player would be the touring pro as compared to the senior player?
Well, you don't want to be prejudiced here, but yeah, you'd have to. I would think you'd have to go with your modern contemporary player to throw that strike in the clutch right now. We'll see what they choose, and then the team coming on is going to have the choice to finish where they want to and make the other team switch strategy. So there's a little bit of strategy involved here and a little bit of confusion down here as we get in a little bit of a late start in our match here. Nobody seems to know that we're ready to go.
Well, I know Bob Strampe knows it's time for the lights to go on because a very talented 55-year-old senior player will open up tonight's championship on the left-hand lane. We're bowling on lanes 11 and 12. Opening shot of the championship. And through the nose, but nevertheless a strike, and Strampe will take it.
Well, Strampe just aimed that shot entirely, didn't let it off his hand at all, and it was left from the moment it left his hand, but he minded up getting a fortuitous strike.
It all looks the same on paper, Mike. Billy Walden out of Troy, Missouri, the reigning PBA seniors champion. As he starts off for his crew, arcs it a little bit, and Walden down on one knee with a beautiful strike on the right-hand lane.
And Walden playing a little bit further outside, out around the 7th or 8th board, and it's a little bit drier out there, letting the lane bring the ball on into the pocket.
The defending champion in this event, Steve Wunderlich, unfortunately his partner of a year ago, Les Sykes, finished 10th this week, and I'm sure he was very pleased with that check, but Steve trying to win 2 in a row here in Erlanger.
Steve in around the 2nd arrow. Big hook, perfect shot. And they start with a double right away.
It's teamwork all week long. The seniors have led off in each and every qualifying game and also each and every match play game. And of course the touring pros have bowled the bottom half of the sheet. Husted arcs it, plenty of room, and barely avoids a split.
And Husted was having the problem in practice of the ball going a little bit light or a little bit high. And was having a tough time with the players say getting lined up where he's consistently could throw the ball in the 1-3 pocket. We saw the result right away. As the ball breaks too soon, right now it's going through the heart of the pins, and he could have had 2 on each side here. Almost did. Gets a big break to break up the split and make the 4-7 to keep his team clean through 2 frames.
Dave Husted, very familiar with this format. He and Carmen Salvino led this tournament last year and lost in the title match.
Lost to Wunderlich and Les Sykes.
It's really amazing. 4 of the 10 participants on tonight's championship round were here last year in the finals.
See if Strampe can make a better shot. Right over the 2nd arrow this time. Better shot. He should go to the lucky shot. He leaves a solid 10-pin. Strampe kind of mutters to himself coming back.
He really reacts. What a storied look on his face. When he lets it go, believe me, he is trying to figure out how to get a strike.
Watch the 6-pin. 2nd from the right around that 10-pin.
That went around in a hurry.
These pins fly in a hurry that we have right down here. At the 10-pin, and he's missed it. Again, an errant shot from Bob Strampe. He just aimed that ball at the 10-pin rather than just letting a natural hand release happen. Right now, Wunderlich and Walden can take a commanding lead with a couple more strikes here.
Billy Walden next week at Hall of Fame Lanes in Canton, Ohio, will be defending his seniors championship. But he has work to do in Kentucky before he heads to Ohio.
Right, he's thinking about winning here first. And leaves the 6-10, went right through the heart of the pins, gave that ball actually a little more room, and the ball hooked, what the players say, early and went right through the heart of the pins. We see the result here. Now we don't see it when it hooked earlier. He breaks up the split by getting the pins to knock out on the left side, leaving only the 6-10. Cross lane at the 6-10. He'll throw it straight. And missed it. He missed the 6-pin in the next to last game last night. Almost cost his team the championship round. And right here, he puts Husted and Strampe back in the match with that open.
Walden and Wunderlich lead by 8.
Becomes hard in doubles play, Dan, not to let the mistakes of your partner affect your next shot.
Do you get to a point where you try a little too hard to make up for him?
Well, you could, yes.
Steve Wunderlich runs it out, and rightfully so, because he strikes on the left-hand lane. So he picks up his senior partner, and they lead by 8. Next week on ESPN, it's the final PBA Summer Tour stop, the Kessler PBA Seniors Championship, live on Wednesday, August 20th, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at the Hall of Fame Lanes in the Hall of Fame City, Canton, Ohio.
Always one of my favorite stops. We've been blessed there with having outstanding shows and finishes last year. Bob Kwolek struck out from the 5th frame to force Billy Walden to strike, and Walden did strike. Husted now trying to right his team, get back on track. And a better shot.
Looks like a little more room that time, Mike. Husted the last time on lane 12 went right through the nose.
Well, David has been making all the right moves lately. He's obviously made the adjustment. We'll see if Strampe now, who is pressing a little bit. First time that Bob's been on television in a long time.
Since 1974.
And so he's obviously pressing. Gives it a little room. It's going to be light. It just didn't make it back. That's the difference between today's contemporary player and the old-time player. When the contemporary player throws it right, it comes back. And when we guys throw it right, it doesn't always make it. The 2-4-5, not an easy spare.
Strampe was the 1964 PBA leading money winner. And in 1964, he earned a fraction better than $33,000 to top the list.
A lot of money in those days. And he makes the 2-4-5.
Mike, would you think that the senior players might be better spare players in some cases than maybe the contemporary pros, because the contemporary guys just seem to throw so many more strikes?
You don't get practice in the spares. Is that what you're saying?
Well, sort of.
Billy Walden giving a lot of room. Ooh! Can't throw much better than that.
Well, there's no need to shoot a spare either, as Walden is 2 for 3 on the right-hand lane.
I really think, in answer to your question, that you don't become an outstanding player on the PBA Tour without the ability to strike and make spares. I mean, you just don't make money out here unless you trip 4s, swish 5s, make spares, make splits. The talent's too good. So they're all good. Strampe just struggling a little bit right now. Missed that spare, but maybe he'll get back on strike.
Walden and Wunderlich lead by 18 and could advance the lead to 28 should Wunderlich strike.
Can't throw it any better than he's throwing it, I'll tell you what. Steve Wunderlich told me that he has only had one check all summer long, or made 11,000 or 1,100 rather, something like that all summer long. This is his first finals. He's been struggling. Looks to me like he's throwing the ball outstanding. It's hard to believe he's gone that long without making money this summer.
Wunderlich with one of the 2 300 games in the tournament this week.
Husted back in the pocket. Oh, and a solid 8. And it doesn't appear that anything's going right for the team of Husted and Strampe.
Dave Husted averaging 223 throughout the week, and obviously he didn't leave many solid 10s.
Watch this. The 5 chops straight back. You see the ball take the ball took the 5 straight back and didn't touch that 8. It always amazes me when that stands. And I don't know how many of them I've left in my career.
I don't know how many he left this week either. He's a little bit disappointed. It was an outstanding shot trying to get back in the match, and Strampe, the senior portion of this doubles team, will have to get something started here in a hurry.
To me, Strampe is playing too far inside. He's playing around the 10th or 11th board. And went a little high. And right now, I think he needs to move a little right out around to the 8th board or something, get a little more arc where his ball's going to bite the lane on a more even keel. Right now, it either skids out on him or it goes a little high and hooks early.
It's funny, he throws the ball so straight now. Our TV coordinator, Chuck Pisano, told me at one time Bob Strampe could hook it from one end of the lane to the other. He was a real strapper back in the early days.
Well, there seems to be a direct proportion between the age and lack of hook. The ball seems to go straighter.
You've drawn that correlation, huh? Well, at this point, Walden and Wunderlich are leading by 30 pins in the opening match. Billy Walden could make it a 4-bagger here in the 7th if he strikes on the right-hand lane, and he is pretty well locked in on that lane, Mike.
Both these players are pretty well locked in. They seem to have made wise choices. The opposing team coming on, looking at this, is not going to be able to know which player they want to finish. I mean, because they're both hitting the lane that they're on.
Billy Walden personally was 9-9 in match play this week as he lets it go again and likes it and nearly clears out the 4-pin. Dancing pin behind it, but he leaves the solid 4.
Still an excellent shot by Walden. Right in the 1-3 pocket.
Billy this week with a high game of 247, had a low game of 159. Overall, the interesting note, Mike, about the team of Walden and Wunderlich, they were 7-10-1 in match play as a team, and they still made the championship round.
Well, what that tells you, Denny, is that they knocked down a lot of pins, that they just weren't fortunate enough to win the game.
Or that some people were picking on them, too.
Well, it goes that way. You have to accept those things. I once saw Mark Roth lead a tournament going into the television show by winning only 10 of 24 matches.
No kidding.
It was in Rochester a few years back.
Wow.
Then he wound up losing the championship match, I think, to Fred Jaski.
Jimmie Christmas. That had to be, what, 1978, 77?
It was way back.
It was a while back.
I don't know the exact year. Wunderlich, who's been solid in the pocket all 3 times that he's bowled on this left leg.
And this shot after the first re-rack of the match. Didn't like the rack, likes the shot, though, and it's a solid strike. And Steve Wunderlich is wired on the left-hand lane.
Right now, it's 8th frame time, and Dave Husted has to get something going here. The best they can get if they strike out is 216. Wunderlich and Walden right now are going at a 215 pace. Michelle looking on, doesn't look too happy right now.
Well, maybe she'll cheer up after this shot.
Solid 8, solid 10. What can you do? You only get 5 shots on your lane, and he's running out of them in a hurry.
That is what drives the professional bowler crazy, and the amateur players, I would assume as well, Mike. When you throw what you think is just a perfect shot and you leave a solid pin, there's just not much you can do.
Bob Strampe bowling in the 9th frame, and the best potential that Strampe and Husted can do is 205. This is absolute must strike here now for Strampe. Strampe, whose only strike was a crossover, goes right through the heart, leaves the 4-6-10, and it's history for Strampe and Husted. Wunderlich and Walden are going to go on to face Pritts and Salvino right through the heart. Doesn't break down anything. And there you see the result. You hit that nose, you got to expect that a certain percentage of the time.
Well, I would venture to see that we'll see Mr. Strampe involved in that seniors championship next week in the Hall of Fame setting.
Well, he's obviously struggled here tonight, but he bowled well to get here, so maybe he's on top of his game and can be there next week. Walden and Wunderlich just finishing it out now, trying to keep on line for the next match. He really gives this one a lot of room. Came roaring back.
No, the seniors aren't supposed to rip the rack like that.
Oh, yes, they are. What do you mean they're not supposed to rip the rack like that?
You're right. I'm going to make some enemies if anybody hears this. Well, this one is out of the wood, as they say. Walden and Wunderlich, with a dandy of an opening game, have a possible 245 should Steve Wunderlich remain perfect on the left-hand lane.
Yeah, they could finish with a possible 10 strikes out of 12. He's there. Boy. Wunderlich is just wired on lane 11 here.
Now, Mike, as the next match comes over, Salvino and Pritts, do they have any say-so as to where the team of Walden and Wunderlich would bowl? Or
Well,
just when they would start and when they would finish?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
They have the choice of what lane they want to finish on. Now, they can choose now to have their team finish on lane 11 and make Walden finish in the 10th frame for the next match.
Which
they want
they
to do
obviously probably will do.
And the only reason that ball went high is that Steve really doesn't care right now. There was no concentration on that shot.
So Strampe and Husted will bow out here in the opening game. But nevertheless, they will take home $3,500 each. Dave Husted done for the summer. The touring pros are all done until the fall tour, but the seniors have one more tournament next week.
And all 4 of these players seem to be very fast bowlers. We're whipping through this at a record pace. And at this rate, Denny, you and I may be doing a soft shoe at the end of this telecast tonight. So.
A soft shoe on the approach. Well, I dance a little. How about you?
Not very well.
A tough night for Dave Husted and Bob Strampe. Husted has enjoyed so much success, not only this year, but this summer, winning 3 tournaments in no time flat.
You get an idea of his attitude. Still smile at that, and Dave has just got an outstanding career ahead of him. Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to be his banker, you know, or agent.
Well, let's see. If you add his total tonight, he's now just a fraction under $95,000 for the '86 campaign.
Well, I know Dave was thinking of that 100,000 mark, wanted to get over it in this tournament, but he's going to have to wait till the fall.
Well, he'll just have to savor and wait 10 weeks, but I'm sure he'll probably get there. Combined total, though, for Strampe and Husted, 169, and I'd have bet my life on the fact that those 2 guys would come out and average better than 215 or 220 as a doubles team.
Never would have bet your life.
Yeah, you're right.
I've lost it too many times, I know.
You've been through this before, huh? There's the final, 234, 169, a bit of a lopsided opening match, but Jimmie Pritts and Carmen Salvino will try their best to maybe give Wunderlich and Walden a good matchup here in game number 2. But don't forget now, coming up, a very special edition of the Bowling News.
Seagram's Premium Wine Cooler Bowling News. Welcome to this week's edition. The summer tour for the touring pros wraps up this week in Erlanger, Kentucky. And although Walter Ray Williams Jr. missed the championship round, he did add $3,000 to his 1986 earnings. And here's a look at the latest list. Steve Cook, who withdrew after only 3 games this week, along with Marshall Holman, are still 2 and 3, while Don Janello and Dave Husted make up the rest of the top 5. Mark Baker is still holding down the number 6 position, while Brian Voss, who finished 24th here this week, along with Tom Kreitz, David Ozio, and Mike Albee, make up the rest of the top 10. Although the senior touring pros had fun this week competing with the normal touring pros, obviously the elder statesmen were interested in one thing, adding some money to their career earnings. Here's now a look through 1986 at where they stand. Dick Weber, who just missed making the championship round this week, has now earned over $50,000 on the seniors tour. Meanwhile, Carmen Salvino, with a victory here this evening, he would jump over the $40,000 barrier, while Billy Walden, the defending seniors championship champion, has already surpassed the $30,000 barrier here this evening in Erlanger, Kentucky. There is a long break now between now and the beginning of the PBA Fall Tour, and at this point, 16 of the leading PBA professionals will be heading off to Tokyo, Japan from September 16th through the 24th to compete in the Japan Cup 86. Walter Ray Williams Jr., Steve Cook, Mike Albee, and David Ozio are among some of the top American pros who will be competing with 16 of Japan's leading players at the Tokyo Port Bowl. Japanese pros captured the top 2 spots in last year's competition. Remember last week when I told you about that super triple PBA regional being staged down at Billy Hardwick's All-Star Lanes in Memphis, Tennessee? Well, representatives from 3 different regions tested their talents. Here's a look at the results of last week. Tony Maurice of Cocoa, Florida ended up at the top of the stack, as did Pat Brannon of Branchburg, New Jersey. He, of course, won over in the East. Over in the Al Thompson headquarter region, their popular doubles tournament was won by the team of Chris McClellan and Brad Snell. Completing regional action around the country, Ryan Boyd of Miami was a winner down south, while former touring pro Rick Jones also ended up in the winner's circle in the Great Northwest. On the amateur side of the sport, a total of 22 nations participated in the 6-day Lee Evans Tournament of the Americas down south in Florida at Cloverleaf Lanes. It was the 24th year for this outstanding amateur event, open to nations, all nations in the Western Hemisphere. The big surprises, the tiny Dominican Republic, with only 1 bowling center in the entire country, earned 2 gold medals, and the great bowling power of them all, the United States, was shut out in that competition. A quick social note that we'd like to pass along. We want to wish Mr. and Mrs. Vince Lucci all the best as they will be celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. Vince is a longtime PBA member and ABC Hall of Famer. Of course, he and his wife are the proud parents of Pat Mercatati, a top women pro who captured the U.S. Open just 2 years ago. I'll be back with Mike Durbin and his thoughts on this week's championship right after this match. But the Don Carter chain continues to erect some of the most plush bowling facilities in the country. The newest in a group of 10 centers is the fabulous Don Carter All-Star Lanes Southwest, located down in Fort Worth, Texas, an edifice costing more than $6 million. The men who assembled this project are the legendary Don Carter, Junior Powell, Jerry Eisen, and Bert Rose. And the manager of this fine addition to the sport is none other than our own Mike Durbin, who will be hosting the grand opening this coming Saturday. And from the looks of this bowling center, you can see that bowling is rapidly moving into the 21st century. Last week, we were in Buffalo, New York, and that, of course, was the site of the Empire State Games. They had an outstanding bowling competition at Thruway Lanes. Here's a look at some of the stars last week. All-events champ Tom DeLutz Jr., son of former touring pro Tom DeLutz, rolled a perfect game en route to capturing the all-events title. Meanwhile, Kathy Cavici, who averaged a solid 225-plus, captured the singles competition. Welcome back. Denny Schreiner along with ESPN color commentator Mike Durbin. Mike, the professionals started out slowly at the Super Bowl in Erlanger, Kentucky this week, but by the end of the week, they were shooting 300 games.
Well, Dan, the reason they started out slowly is on Sunday, the lanes were hooking excessively, and both the seniors and the touring players were struggling. But by Monday and Tuesday, there was a little bit more oil on the lanes, and the players adjusted nicely, and we wound up with some pretty impressive averages. There you see the numbers. John Gant led the pack with a 225 average. Dave Husted second with 223. Steve Wunderlich, who had a 300 game this week, came in at 222. Jimmie Pritts also at 222. And Mats Carlson, our first foreign winner, came in at 221. Bill Allen led the seniors at 211. Darrell Curtis, another left-hander, also averaged 211. Teata Semiz, whose 7-week-old baby had a successful heart surgery, averaged 210. Carmen Salvino also at 210. And Les Sykes, who missed the championship round for the first time in a seniors event, came in at 209.
Dick Weber fans, Walter Ray Williams Jr. fans are also a little bit sad because their team did not make the telecast. They finished a very close 6th this week.
Came down to the very last game, and you'd think it'd be an ideal team of Dick Weber and Walter Ray Williams, Hall of Famer and leading money winner. They lost that last game and wound up finishing 6th. And right now we'll take a look at some of the other finishers. Besides Weber and Williams, Bill Beach and Dennis Jakes finished 8th. Moving right along, 10th, Les Sykes and Jimmy Miller. 12th, Mickey Spizzo and Wayne Webb. Les Sisler and Tommy Baker finished 15th. And we're going to see 17th with the Smith boys, no relation. Glenn Allison and Randy Canales finished the final spot of 18th.
The bowling news has been brought to you by Seagram's Premium Wine Cooler. Will the defending champion Steve Wunderlich and his partner Billy Walden continue to climb the ladder? Well, PBA Hall of Famer Carmen Salvino and his partner Jimmie Pritts Jr. may have something to say about that. Forget, coming up next week, it's the Kessler PBA Seniors Championship. Janet Bueller and her bunch at Hall of Fame lanes will be ready and raring to go for the pros when they come into Canton.
And again, as we've said before, that's always an exciting tournament there. This is our team, Jimmie Pritts Jr., who's been struggling this summer. Jimmie has kind of a fluid style, and watch at the finish here. It's a real jerky follow-through, short and out to the right like that. It's almost unique on the PBA Tour. Salvino with his hang the ball down, 4 steps, watch his follow-through, straight on up. However, the thing to watch with Carmen is his follow-through. Sometimes he has a variety of them. So it ought to be an interesting team to watch tonight.
It's more fun to watch him come back off the approach sometimes than it is when he goes down to throw the ball.
And what they have chosen to do, and they meaning Pritts and Salvino, is they're going to make Wunderlich start the match. The reason for that is that Wunderlich is zeroed in on lane 11. They would have made senior Billy Walden finish the match. But remember, Walden struck in the 10th frame last year to win the PBA Seniors Championship.
Walden and Wunderlich defeated Husted and Strampe 234-169 in the opening match, and we're in the second game here at the Super Bowl lanes in Erlanger, Kentucky, and Steve Wunderlich of St. Louis picks up right where he left off.
He's only got 4 shots left on that lane. He's making each one count.
Has really bowled well, and he's the defending champion. It's awful tough to defend your championship on the PBA Tour.
Yes. Closest I ever came was I won, and the next year finished 4th. So
no kidding. They come gunning for you. Jimmie Pritts Jr. with his first shot.
Right over about 10. 10 being the second arrow, and there's the result. And we talked earlier, Dan, about who was going to finish in the 10th frame that we thought the turning player would be finishing. Well, they've chosen Pritts and Salvino to have Salvino finish out the match.
Well, Mr. Salvino is the PBA president, PBA Hall of Famer, and he's been there a few times before.
He started this style of holding the ball down his side over 10 years ago. Down on a knee for a double, and there it is.
He has been very physical and boisterous all week long here en route to getting to the telecast.
Carmen was down on that knee as soon as he threw the shot because he knew he had thrown it well. And remember, he bowled an outstanding game earlier on the seniors telecast. As Walden trips that 4 out of there.
And we're all even Steven after 2 frames.
And he lost, you remember, earlier in the year to Mickey Spizio. I finally said that name right, Spizio.
Mickey bowled well this week, made the finals. And I'm sure he'll be heading down to Canton, Ohio. Steve Wunderlich, 28 years of age, has won $25,000 this year, won $87,000 last year, so he is behind pace.
Took a little extra time this time. A little more pressure on him. snapped it through. Boy, he threw it nice. He didn't know whether that was going to hold a little bit because he thought it was hooking a little early, and he threw it with good, firm speed. Right now, he's not sure whether it's going to hold the pocket or not, but the speed that he threw it with held the ball into the pocket.
5 shots, 5 strikes.
And Pritts wanted me to say hello to his 2 children that are not with him this week. Amy and Jimmie. Jimmie's 3 years old, and Jimmie predicted earlier in the week that his dad would not make the television show.
What does he know?
Yeah.
Nope. Obviously now he's a believer, right?
Right.
Dad just struck on the right-hand lane, and we're perfect now through 3 frames.
He said, well, Dad's not bowling well enough, you know. So,
you know, they're so honest when they're young.
Yeah, right.
Boy, is that Mike. Salvino to recapture the lead on the left-hand lane, and these pros are locked into a match right now. Oh, that one a little bit wide, and Salvino nearly left the bucket and down on his knee one more time, Mike. He wants this game very badly.
Yeah, and for all my friends in Fort Worth, that ball was just a freckle light, so.
Is there a difference between a freckle and a board, Mike?
Yeah,
probably considerable.
Just a little bit, yeah. There's his wife, Jenny.
How many times has she watched him bowl on television through the years?
That's exactly what I thought. Or how many games has she watched?
Well, he gives it the split knee attack and waves everybody off and says, my, I'm very happy I got away. Wunderlich and Walden, though, it's very close. They lead by 3. The team of Wunderlich and Walden perfect through 3 frames. And Billy Walden of Troy, Missouri would love to keep his team perfect.
And, ooh, boy, he threw that well, almost too well, and left the 4-pin. That ball just snapped right at the last second there. Watch it. Watch the 2-pin, 3rd from the left here. It's going to go to the walls. The ball's just tight and leaves that 4-pin.
The interesting thing about this team is the fact that Billy Walden has been for many years Steve Wunderlich's personal bowling coach.
Right. I asked him if he did any coaching this week. He said, well, just a little.
He said, I did a little coaching and a lot of watching because my partner bowled very well. But isn't that ironic how 2 Midwesterners, a coach and his pupil, would end up bowling together in the doubles?
It certainly is.
Last year they bowled against each other, and guess what? The pupil won.
Struck out in the 10th frame to do it, too.
Well, I guess that's what happens when you teach them too good.
Wunderlich taking it again a little extra time, making sure he's got all his thoughts together. That's a tip for young players or even older players at home. You know, is get in your mind what you want to do before you get up on that approach, and that's just what Steve was doing there. Oh, you see the results, man.
He's an interesting player in that when he does get locked in, he throws lots of strikes. As a matter of fact, he did shoot 300 this week. He now has 4 300 games on the PBA Tour this year. That ties him with the PBA Tour lead along with Steve Cook.
And he has 24 lifetime, 24 300s.
Count
only
24.
How old
He's
is
28.
He? 24. He almost got 1 for every year of his age.
Geez, I wonder when he got started.
Come on, Jimmie.
Carmen yelling, come on, Jimmie. And Jimmie leaves the 4-pin the same way that Billy Walden did. And everybody was off to a fast start and kind of settled down now. The difference, 3 pins. If Pritts makes the spare, which I have every confidence that he will.
Jimmie Pritts with a high game effort this week of 299 and a low game of 155. Personally, he was 9-9 in match play. The team of Salvino and Pritts ended up 11-7 overall in their 18 matches this week. Up steps Carmen Salvino, a member of both the PBA and ABC Halls of Fame. And he won his first of 18 PBA titles back in 1961.
A long time ago. And his goal is longevity. That's the way you have longevity. Keep throwing balls to the pocket. Carmen going through his act.
And Salvino orchestrates yet another strike.
Yeah, orchestrates is a very good term there.
Billy Walden. You won't see him smile or react a whole lot until he collects the check. He's one of those cool customers that just takes the shot-by-shot approach to his bowling, and obviously it's worked very well.
Walden trying for a double. Oh, it leaves almost the 4-9, but another 4-pin.
And there is Cindy Wunderlich and also Darlene Walden. And anxious moment for them when the 4-9 almost stood up, but luckily the 9-pin fell down.
You know, we were talking that Billy Walden struck in the 10th frame last year to win the PBA Seniors Championship. While he was doing that and winning, lightning was striking his bowling center in Missouri and did considerable damage.
That is really an amazing story. The bowling center was in Troy, Missouri, right?
Right.
And a big storm there. You're right. That was amazing.
Wunderlich taking a re-rack on lane 11. I believe that's the second one of the game. They're
Each team allowed 3.
Allowed 3, right. And he doesn't like this one. He's looking at it, and he doesn't like this one either. You just tell from the look on his face there. He's going to shoot it anyway, though, because it's only the 7th frame, and he wants to save that next one maybe for the crucial foundation 9th frame.
Might want to mention that they get 3 as a team, not individually.
And I'm sitting right behind it. What I would see is that it looks like it's a little open pocket here. And maybe he hears me talking. I'd better be quiet.
There it is. It's definitely open. Is the 3-pin a little bit wide, Mike, or is the head pin off center?
It looks, when we say open, we mean that there's a space between 1 and the 3, and it looks like the head pin is a little off spot to the left to me. Now, it would be within ABC tolerance, but a pro's eye can spot that difference. And that's the result. See, we see that happens so many times when that pin is slightly off spot like that, that we leave that solid 10. And that's exactly what he saw. You're going to watch the 6-pin here. Your second pin, second from the right. Watch it fly around the 10. And it stayed low as it went around and then shot up like a rocket. And he knew he threw it well. And that pin never got close to that 10 pin.
It's amazing. Just an inch or two. What kind of an effect it has on the shot. Wunderlich with the cross alley spare. And he converts it nicely. As the team of Wunderlich and Walden, they're leading by 2, but it's not a very big lead. Week, Mike. I feel like I'm at Riverfront Stadium. Why is that?
Well, maybe we're getting more and more interest, and more and more people have been watching the telecast. So maybe that's a good sign, Dan.
Maybe you and I need to sign.
I'm afraid of what they'd say, though.
Jimmie Pritts Jr. And there you see the games. 299. Outstanding effort there.
Pritts bowling on lane 12, 7th frame action to take the lead. Trailing by 2, can go in front by 8 with a double. And does.
Carmen asking for a strike. And there are the 2 lovely wives of that very talented team. And when Carmen asks for something, he normally gets it.
Carmen asking for a strike now from that black ball that he's throwing.
Carmen Salvino. 18 PBA titles, 28 years. He's been a member of the Professional Bowlers Association, and he has earned better than $570,000 in his career.
Gives it a lot of room. It's coming back and knocks the 10-pin out of there. Salvino going through his entire act on that one.
Well, the repertoire is out. That looked like the Muhammad Ali haymaker. Check this one out. He knows it's good. It's a half hit. He shakes that 10-pin out, and then it's around the world with Carmen Salvino.
Billy Walden taking no time up on the right lane in the 8th frame. Good speed. Down on the knee. And the most important shot of the match and the week is coming up right now for the team of Wunderlich and Walden. They're down by 18 pins. Wunderlich, who's been so impressive, striking almost every shot, left a 10-pin on this lane last time, needs a strike to cut the lead to 8 pins right now. Set themselves up for the 10th frame.
Possible 248 for the team of Wunderlich and Walden.
A little extra time. It's right over target, but it's going high on the foot. Well, he got it.
Well, he left a solid 10 the last time around, and he set this one short. You could see it hooked almost instantly.
It hit his target, but his swing had to be offline because it was left immediately.
Biggest break of the match, without a doubt. Now Jimmie Pritts Jr. will have to stand up on lane 12 and try and continue the string and make it a 4-bagger and give his partner Carmen Salvino an opportunity to strike out in the 10th.
Ironically, if he does not strike here, they cannot lock out the team of... But he does. That's not important anymore.
Look at Jimmie Pritts' eyes. Did you see him coming across the approach that time? He wanted that strike desperately.
Watch the eyes now. That puts him in the 240s. One more, and Carmen Salvino will lock him out.
How many times has this Hall of Famer stood up on the approach in a position to lock somebody out?
The thing to watch is watch Carmen's follow-through. And the follow-through went in and then back out. It wasn't his A shot. Left the soft 10. That opens the door for the team of Walden and Wunderlich. Walden can strike out and win this match.
The important thing now, obviously, cover up the 10 pin and then strike and finish with a 245.
Right.
Then you force the double.
And the good count. Oh, he has in trouble. He missed it. It hung in the thumb, and I don't know whether he's stuck or whether it was the pressure, but he has opened the door for the team of Wunderlich and Walden. Watch it. He doesn't get out of this ball at all. He just hangs in his thumb and goes way out of the lane. Watch the release. See that? And it has no rotation on it at all.
Hung up in it all the way.
And he knew he was in trouble as soon as he let it go.
The door is
just
wide
needs
open
this
right
one.
now.
Just needs this one, and he has it! Salvino throws down his towel, and Wunderlich congratulates his partner. Their strategy backfired. They wanted to make Walden finish, and Walden came through.
Also, the team of Salvino and Pritts opted for Carmen to finish on the left-hand lane.
Right. The strategy backfired all the way.
Even the best laid plans.
Salvino will remember that 10 pin. Leaving it is enough, but missing it, you just don't forget those things.
Carmen really geared up for the championship round here. Walden with another nail in the coffin. And the team of Wunderlich and Walden has won another match.
Interesting. Billy Walden, not a household name. You know, it's just an idea how many people around the country, or how many bowlers are just outstanding players in their own cities, in their own towns, in their own states. Billy Walden, another example.
Just a good example, as Mike mentioned. There's so much talent on the national tour. And there you see it, 2 solid hits and a ringing 10. But we don't have to worry about the 10 pin because it's another victory. And there's the congratulatory handshakes. Salvino and Pritts obviously disappointed. They bowled fairly well, but the open in the 10th, really the catastrophe of match number 2 as Walden and Wunderlich continue to ascend up the ladder. And there you see the score, 247 to 233. And they're going to try and keep busy and try and stay warm because they're in the hunt right now for a PBA championship. $115,000 seniors Kessler PBA championship, and that of course coming up next week live Wednesday, August 20th, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Another interesting featurette coming up here in just a moment or so. Our Mike Durbin taking another trip, continuing his trip through the National Bowling Hall of Fame.
This is some of the equipment used in the sport of bowling over many, many, many years. First, the pins. On my far left here is a candle pin used mainly in the New England area. Next to it is a pony pin that was very popular in the early 1900s in the Wisconsin area. In the middle here, we have a duck pin. Duck pins is a 10-pin game, still very popular in Washington, Baltimore area. This is an old solid wood pin that we bowled against for so many years, already beat up here. And this is the modern pin that we bowl against nowadays. Right here, we have all the different balls used over different years. This is an old solid wood ball, about 10 pounds, no holes in it at all, in this little bitty bag. This was compressed cork, very light ball used for women and children. Another hard wood ball here with only 2 holes for my middle finger and thumb. This was a laminated wood ball that never caught on in the early 30s. Next to it was a hard rubber ball that was very, very popular up to when I started bowling. Next to it is the plastic ball made popular in the early 70s. And last is the modern urethane ball that's so popular on the PBA Tour today. Here we have a lane that was very popular in the 1920s and 1930s. And as you can see, it's entirely different. First of all, there are 54 boards across the lane, whereas the modern lane only has 40. Second, there's no rangefinder, no dovetail of arrows out there to give us any target to aim at. All we have to do is try and hit a single board. Third, there are no dots along here anywhere on the approach to help us line up with. And fourth, they had overground ball returns, where the ball came back over ground and came up through the ball return here, and many times that ball return didn't grab it, it came very quickly. Looks very familiar, doesn't it? Ball comes out of the ball return. It's an underground ball return, so we can't see it coming back. It comes from automatic pin setters, setting up the pins automatically, something we see in every modern bowling center we go in today. We see a lane out here that's a typical example of a modern lane. It's a wood lane covered with a urethane finish. We see a rangefinder of arrows out there. There's 7 arrows out there to help us find the right target. There are dots on the approaches to help us line up with those arrows out there. Everything to help us in modern convenience. Next to these wood lanes, we have the newest thing in bowling. It's a plastic lane coating called synthetic. It even has the built-in hue of the different types of wood, from the maple to the pine. It's in use today, and it may be in further use in future years. The front end of the lane is not the only places that bowling has made progress. We made enormous strides at the back end of the lane also. And if you remember in an earlier feature, we talked about pin buoys and about how they originally set pins with pegs in the pin deck. Now the pegs were activated by stepping on a lever such as this. The peg came up, the pin buoy would gather the pins, put the pin on the peg, release the lever, and then quickly get out of the way. The next step in the evolution of bowling is what I started on, and that was the pin buoy with the manual pin setter. What he first did is push the ball and get it going back. Then he'd pick up the pins, usually he could get them all in 1 or 2 hands, put them in their proper slots, reset them. Hopefully they're going to stand up. And they're almost ready to go on to the next shot. That was a lot of work. The pin boys really got tired, and they were really happy to see this little baby come along. That's a semi-automatic. The pin boy still had to pick up the pins and set them in the tray, but all he had to do was pull this lever. It would set the pins down automatically. That was a big progress, and the pin boys welcomed it. In 1952, bowling entered the age of automation. It was then that AMF installed in Mount Clemens, Michigan, the first automatic pin setter. We see here the 2 different types of pin setters in use today. Brunswick operates where the ball comes back and hits an individual ball wheel. The ball wheel carries the ball up and sends it on to a speedy return. The pins, however, go to a pinwheel and are individually carried up to a tray. The tray sends the pins up to a basket. When the basket is full of 10 pins, it then drops them into the deck, and the deck spots them on the lane. The AMF machine works a little bit differently. The ball comes back and goes out a side ball door. It then hits a belt that speeds it onto a quick return. The pins go back to a pinwheel and are individually carried up to a distributor. The distributor sends the pins to individual pin cups throughout a tray. When the tray is completely full, it is then triggered and spots the pins on the deck. You can see that we've come a long way since the days of pegs in the pin deck and pins being spotted individually on those pegs. I don't know about you, but I'm amazed and surprised at the progress that our sport has made over the years, and I'm grateful to the National Bowling Hall of Fame for illustrating it to us. Next week will be our last week, and we will be covering impossible splits.
Steve Wunderlich and Billy Walden are 2 for 2 next on the ladder. Talented John Gant and also his left-handed sidekick, Hall of Famer Bill Allen. The professionals this evening on top, $25,000, and they'll split that, $12,500 each. Second place team, $13,000 and $9,000 for third, and that's exactly what these 4 gentlemen will be bowling for in the next game, Mike.
Yeah. On the left, Gant, who's the epitome of the contemporary player, a 5-step player, upright at the beginning, and very stiff finish and heavy, heavy lift. The only thing I don't like about John is that follow-through coming left. Bill Allen puts the ball down, always been that way. Soft stroke, throws the full roller. Started the full roller, it seemed like, years and years ago, and was just an outstanding player in the 60s. 3 times won back-to-back titles. I don't think any other player in the PBA history has done that. Maybe Earl Anthony did, I don't know.
That would be a heck of a record to go back and look for, but you're right. 3 times in his career, winning back-to-back championships. Won 4 times his final year on the tour. Steve Wunderlich, who has been a workhorse here this evening, has struck 9 of 11 shots on lane 11, and I have a feeling if his success continues, he'll want to take this lane with him on the tour wherever he goes.
Well, he made that errant shot in the 9th frame and got away with it. And he goes high and strikes. He's going to have to make a move on that lane then. His ball's starting to, what they say, hook early and go high. This one almost through the nose. Watch the 2-pin. Goes and gets both the 4 and the 7, and the 7 falls forward.
Right now, Wunderlich and Walden appear a team of destiny.
Bill Allen with that swing behind his back over the 3rd arrow and right through the nose. His first shot on television in quite a while. And he didn't make a very good one. Right through the heart of the pins.
Last time Bill appeared on national television was back in 1975 in the Long Island Open. And he finished 2nd in that tournament.
Denny, as we have our bios in front of us, I'm going to have to start wearing my glasses to be able to read these things here. I mean,
I got to tell you a funny story. Each and every completion of match play this week, each and every game, it was so funny because the seniors would fill out the sheets, and without doubt, without fail, they all carried their bifocals with them, and they would whip them out of the bag, put them on, and I looked at Les Sykes and Dick Weber the other night. I said, you guys look like accountants out here. Every time I turn around, you've got the pencil going. But they know how to strike. Gant, and so does John Gant, who has the 5-pin wiggle a few times, but he normally doesn't leave that 5-pin.
Not too often, but he doesn't normally play right of the 3rd arrow as he is here today.
Boy, that's a severe angle for Gant, who normally plays, what, outside of the 2nd arrow?
Yeah, those left-handers, you know, they like to play outside. Of course, the right-handers do, too. Billy Walden is playing outside. There's some of the high games he had this week. For the double. And he tripped the 4 on there, but the 6 didn't go. And
he had an inkling, though.
Right, he's thinking, well, I'm very glad it stood now and not that first one on the 10th. The ball hooks high here. Watch the 2-pin. He didn't get the 4 and the 7, but something misses the 6. Now
Just tickled that 6-pin, and it's still wiggling a little bit, Mike.
He missed the 6-10 earlier, and he has missed it again. That is inexcusable. I mean, he should have learned the first time when he missed that spare the same way. He missed the 6-pin last night. The next to last game, missed the 6-10 in the first game tonight, and now the 6-pin again. Billy Walden says, well, you let me throw that strike to win, and I'll get that, but those spares, I'm a little worried about them.
That's interesting, as well as he has bowled all week long. The 1-pin spares, especially when they're not in the corners, are usually, what, 95% for the professionals?
Well,
maybe better.
Especially since he missed it once already. It should have moved a board or 2 to the right so he covered that spare more fully. See if Wunderlich makes an adjustment, moves a little deeper, a little further left. He did. And you see why the guys are so good. That ball went high, and he immediately made that adjustment. He moved at least a board left, and he comes up light here and just destroys the pins.
Now, when you mention he moved at least a board left, you're talking about with his feet, right?
With his feet on the approach, and it looked like he kept his target close to the same.
Tough to keep him in the picture.
Bill Allen trying for the double. Right through the heart, leaves the 4-7. Bill Allen forced to play in close to that 3rd arrow, and he doesn't like it in there either. I know that.
Bill Allen with a superb professional bowling career. 13 titles in all. 6 300 games. And Bill averaged 211 even this week. He was the top average getter along with Darrell Curtis among the senior players.
And the Hall of Famer going cross lane at the 4-7, and woo, just makes it. And speaking of the Hall of Fame, Denny, the piece that we did in the tip at the Hall of Fame, I want to thank the National Bowling Hall of Fame for their courtesy to us. And there's the monitor of the wife and child of John Gant.
And that's Beverly, and also Evan.
And she's a physician in the Cincinnati area.
Evan's having fun looking at himself on television. His dad stands up, rips one loose on the left-hand lane, and doesn't quite get it back to the pocket. Mike, I know you mentioned the National Bowling Hall of Fame. Were all those pins on spot when you were back there, Mike, in the pin deck? I noticed a couple were off spot. I know you're a real stickler for that. If I were bowling on that pair, I might have been a little upset.
You'd ask for a re-rack.
There would have been no tip. What did they used to give them back? What did they used to make back in those days? Wasn't much.
They didn't make much, no. You know, a nickel tip was a lot.
You were off to the races if you made a nickel. And Gant covers up the cross alley spare. So the team of Bill Allen and John Gant lead by 11 at this point, but there's a long way to go in the semifinal match.
Right here. Can he throw that ball well, or can he?
The team of Wunderlich and Walden has bowled very, very well here this evening. And Mike, how in the world did those two guys end up with each other this week?
Well, the way the qualifying went is the touring pros had a separate qualifying round, and the seniors had a separate qualifying round. And the touring players, the top 18 touring players qualified 1 through 18. The top seniors qualified from their division 1 through 18, and then they matched the #1 qualifier from the seniors with the #1 qualifier from the touring pros right on down the line. And that's how the people wound up with the partners that they have. There's no selection going. It's simply by how they qualified in their individual qualifying round. Wunderlich one more time. He complains a lot about his carry, but it's been outstanding here tonight.
And from one down after a double and now a turkey in 3, 4, and 5 frames, Wunderlich and Walden lead by 9. Pressure is back on the team of Allen and Gant.
And Allen wants to win so bad he can taste it. Better shot, better shot. Gave that one a little room. He trusted it.
Nice adjustment that time by Bill Allen.
And the way that Wunderlich and Walden are bowling, I would say right now that John Gant must strike on this shot to keep his team not only close in the match, but keep the pressure on the other team if they want to win.
John Gant was the high average performer in this week's tournament, 225.1, but he needs a strike here desperately.
His best shot of the match so far.
Those pins just have to be saying to themselves, excuse me, we got to get out of the way. Boy, oh boy, does that ball hit. Give him a little bit of area going left, and you're in for a long night if you're on the other team.
And an expensive one sometimes. Walden to regain the lead. And does. Boy, he had good loft and speed on that shot.
And he is exhorting his teammate, Steve Wunderlich, on. There you see the scoreboard. Wunderlich and Walden lead by 9, and Steve Wunderlich now in the 7th, looking to continue that string of strikes and make it a 5-bagger.
Walden and Wunderlich with 5 out of 6 strikes right now. See how Wunderlich holds that ball to the right, stands erect, now pushes it, pretty free swing. Gave this one a lot of room, but it's coming back. Oh, and knocked the 10-pin out there. I was looking at the 10-pin all the way.
And it came back in a hurry. And now through 7 frames, Wunderlich and Walden back in control. They lead by 19. Enjoying the action this evening, Mrs. Connie Smoot, Vice President, Advertising for Columbia 300 Industries, and also Mr. Doug Martin, proprietor of the Super Bowl here in Erlanger, Kentucky.
Yeah, they've been treated to outstanding bowling so far.
51-year-old Bill Allen, hailing from Winter Springs, Florida.
And each shot becomes more crucial for the team of Allen and Gant. And again, down by 19, Bill Allen must strike here to keep his team in the match. Gave it a lot of room. Is he going to get a break? Oh, it hit it, but it didn't knock it over. And again, the difference between the older player and the contemporary, just not the drive on that ball to knock out that 7. It's rocking, but the ball hit weak and softly.
Did that ever bother you, Mike, when you stood up there to shoot a spare and it was still rocking back and forth? Would you wait until it stopped?
No, not necessarily. It bothered me that it was still rocking and it didn't fall.
It bothered you that it was still there. Nice cross alley spare. I love the way the seniors sort of smooth up there and let that thing go. They're not in any big hurry to get to the foul line. Of course, instead of running them out, I guess they sort of walk them out, don't they? And they're a pair of very tense wives. Not easy to stand by and watch. Cindy Wunderlich and also Darlene Walden.
Down by 20. Gant in the 8th frame. And he's out the window. Light leaves the 3-5. I have to get my left-hand spares correct here, and his team falls further behind.
Kathy Allen, and once again, Dr. Gant. I asked her what she wanted to be referred to as this evening, and she said, oh, you can just call me Beverly. She is a physician doing some research now in one of the hospitals in Cincinnati. Uh-oh.
Well, they're digging a hole too deep to come out of. Right now, Walden and Wunderlich, if they have that killer instinct, they're going to bury their opponents right now. He just doesn't make it up. You got to hit that lead pin, which in this case was a 3-pin in order to make that spare, and he just didn't do it.
Billy Walden with a golden opportunity.
Up by 33, can increase it to 43 with a strike here. And does. And his partner has more reaction than he does.
The team of Wunderlich and Walden currently averaging 240.5 through their 2 opening victories. First win over Husted and Strampe, 234-169. Then they defeated Jimmie, Pritts Jr. and Carmen Salvino, 247-233. And they're right on pace once again.
And a strike here by Wunderlich, and it's going to lock it up for his team completely. They would have to open in the 9th and 10th, and Allen and Gant strike out to make it a close match.
Wunderlich and Walden currently cruising at a 268 clip.
He's back in that pocket. Leaves the soft 10, but a spare here right now will salt it away.
That's a nice position to be in. No pressure in the 10th if you mark in the 9th.
Well, that's the idea. You don't want to have to need those strikes in the 10th. Win it by the 9th frame.
The top seed team, Joe Berardi and Teata Semiz, warming up just to our right. And I think they have their hands full.
I know they have their hands full. That's it. Right now, if Bill Allen doesn't strike on this shot, the team of Wunderlich and Walden doesn't even need to show up for the 10th frame.
They have marched through the masses thus far.
Well, his last shot on television was a good one. Maybe he'll be back
till
next week. Yeah.
Sure. Bill really enjoyed himself this week. They were leading for a while. The team of Gant and Allen led through the first 3 rounds of play. Ended up qualifying number 2 and held down the number 2 slot by only 5 pins.
Gant trips a 6-pin to keep any glimmer of hope for their team alive.
Best that Allen and Gant could shoot here in the semifinal game would be 215.
Which would mean that Walden would have to show up and stay behind the foul line and keep the ball on the lane in the 10th frame. That would be about all.
That sounds easy enough. Anybody ever fouled in the 10th like that, Mike, that you can remember?
No, even I didn't do that. So. Well, they finished out strong. If he'd have made that spare, it could have been a different situation.
Or also, if Bill Allen carries the hit in the 7th, that half 7-pin that rocked around a little bit and thought about falling, that might have been a different match. Right now, it appears, though, as if Wunderlich and Walden are headed for a title match showdown against the East Coast Connection.
Out the window. Finishes up with 212. Which means, if my addition is right, that Billy Walden needs 3 pins.
Billy checking out the score to his left, just to make sure he knows what his position is here with the opening shot.
You get this situation, you move back on the approach a little bit, and you just kind of steer it towards the nose just to keep it on the lane and not hit your ankle. And he came up light and left the 2-5, but that's plenty enough right there. So Walden and Wunderlich keep marching on and going to go on to face our tournament leaders, Berardi and Semiz. When I looked in the paper the other day and I saw that team of Berardi and Semiz, I said, boy, they weren't in first place at that time, but I said, hey, there's a tough team and it should be a strong team. Walden's having more trouble with the spares than he is the strikes.
That's an astute observation. He's had a little trouble with the right side spares. Missed the 6-10 and then missed a single 6-pin as there are the congratulatory handshakes in the semifinal match. And for their efforts this week, Bill Allen and John Gant will split $9,000, so $4,500 apiece.
Well, I know they're disappointed, but not everybody can win, unfortunately.
Well, you're exactly right. It'll be an interesting title match, though. You can bet on that, because the two players coming up are very talented. There's the scoreboard. 233 to 212. Really, the straw that broke the camel's back. The open in the 8th frame. It would have forced things to go to the 10th.
Right now, we'll see who Berardi and then finish the match.
That's right. Coming up next, it's Wunderlich and Walden against Berardi and Semiz. There you see the crowd in Erlanger, Kentucky. They're waiting for the title match. But before we get to that, are bowlers really athletes? Well, PBA National Tournament Director Harry Golden explains.
Through the years, I've been asked on numerous occasions, are pro bowlers really athletes? And I'll immediately reply, definitely. However, they are not athletes in the sense of the fine conditioning it might take to be a track star. And they are not athletes in the sense of the hardening it might take to be a pro football player. However, through the 42 games of a regulation PBA event, a pro bowler will lift over 5 tons, and he'll carry a bowling ball over 2 miles, and he'll project it at a target 60 feet away with unerring accuracy and spin over 700 times. Now, in order to do that competitively, he has to be some sort of an athlete. But what sets the pro bowler aside from all others is his ability to handle pressure. You tell a basketball team the only way they'll ever chalk one up in the win column is to go 1 of 4 sudden death overtimes. You tell a pro golfer the only way he'll ever win a tournament is to go 1 of 4 sudden death holes, no 6-stroke lappers. And you tell Reggie Jackson the next time he gets up with 2 on and 2 out in the bottom of the 9th, if he doesn't bat that run across, he's not going to get a paycheck that week. See how he squeezes the handle. Our guys have to do that week in and week out. They're definitely outstanding athletes.
And Harry Golden would know. 25 years he's been the National Tournament Director for the Professional Bowlers Association.
And he studies the game thoroughly. And Denny, I just got a note here from a listener as we take a look at our tournament director, and informs me that the pin setters used to get 2.5 cents. How'd they get a half a cent?
Well, you had to work all night to make yourself a half a buck.
Well, we're going to take a look at the leading team here. Joe Berardi, the turning player on the left, a 5-step player. Very small first step. Pretty free swing. Left arm out there for balance. Comes through and turns and lifts. Good finish, good balance at the end. Teata Semiz throws the ball straighter. A little bit more controlled swing. Deep knee bend with the right knee. Good follow through at the end. Teata's a down and in player. It's a good team. Probably the team that could line up off each other the best here tonight, Dan.
And they're ready for action here in the $130,000 Columbia Senior Touring Pro Doubles Championship. And this is the final match. Teata Semiz will open up on the left-hand lane.
And interesting, the strategy is that the team of Semiz and Berardi are going to have Berardi finish the match, and Wunderlich will finish for the other team. I guess they decided as Semiz starts with a strike that Billy Walden is too tough in the clutch, and they're going to make the turning player finish the match.
Teata Semiz is tough in the clutch, too. Through the years, you can just about bet your bottom dollar on him striking when the pressure is on.
I bowled Teata a few times on television.
How'd you do?
Well, one time back in 1968, I bowled him. As Walden goes through the heart and leaves the baby split, I lost. And the last time I bowled him last year at the Quaker State and edged him out. Neither one of us got a double, and I edged him out.
Billy Walden, 11 of 20 strikes on the right-hand lane, but his first split of the evening. And Mike, he's had trouble with right-side spares.
Well, he missed the 6 pin. He has a split this time. The baby split, the 310. He wants to go between the two, nick the 3, have the ball deflect to the 10. And he can't make that single pin spares, but he watched our bowling tip weeks ago and made the baby split. Perfect. The ball hits the 3 pin on the right, deflects into the 10. That's how it's supposed to be done right there.
Steve Wunderlich and Billy Walden averaging 237.6 through their first 3 conquests here this evening. And Steve Wunderlich, has he been hot? Well, he has struck 13 of 16 shots.
back in the pocket. And Wunderlich is just knocking that 10-pin out of there almost every time. But the thing right now is, has Billy Walden lost the right lane? That's the key in this match right now.
And
he went
Joker.
high. He went high in the last ball in the 10th frame and high this time. Berardi takes a re-rack.
Just prior to the championship match, Joey stepped up to the announce booth and told me that he split his middle finger right up near the top in practice, and it's very sore. We'll see how he reacts here with his opening shot.
$25,000. Sometimes you forget about things like that. Gave it a lot of room. Too much. Left the 2-4-10. Joey's struggling with this. Joey had some personal problems in his life the last year or so, and he wanted to take this opportunity to give a special thanks to somebody back home, Joe Manfredi. Guess he helped him out quite a bit. Hard and straight. He's got a chance. Ooh, it just missed the 2-pin, and the team of Semiz and Berardi is open and falls behind in the match.
So now it's up to his senior partner to right the ship and strike on the left-hand lane. Teata Semiz, 52 years of age, 3 career PBA titles in 26 years of bowling professionally.
Long time to be a member of the PBA. He's back in the pocket. And it's interesting, the strategy here, you know, I mean, right now the strategy seems to favor the team of Wunderlich and Walden. We'll see how Walden, what kind of a move he makes on lane 12 now, if any.
He might have just made a bad shot too, right, Mike?
It's
might
possible.
not necessarily need to move. Can't throw it perfect all the time, although the team of Wunderlich and Walden has certainly created their own opportunities here this evening. Billy lets it go and likes it, and a solid 10.
Boy, was that a nice shot. And there's Wunderlich saying, great shot.
Steve Wunderlich, the defending champion in this event, and he is very, very close to winning 2 straight, and that's not an easy task, especially when you have to use 2 different partners.
And what I find ironic about it is that in this particular tournament, it just made it back to make it, that the winners of this tournament do not get an invitation to the Firestone Tournament of Champions. It's a rule that's been debated a lot in our PBA tournament committee as we take a look at how Walden had it measured exactly 60 feet. So Wunderlich could win this title again. He won it last year and yet still not have that count as a tournament title leading toward an invitation to the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
Steve last year in 1985 with an outstanding year, and he won the ABC Masters Championship. But right now all concentration focused on lane number 11. Plenty of room this time, and another strike. So Walden and Wunderlich in the driver's seat. They lead by 14, but don't go away. And how time flies next week on ESPN, the final 1986 PBA Summer Tour event. It's the Kessler PBA Seniors Championship, live Wednesday, August 20th, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at the Hall of Fame lanes in the Hall of Fame City, Canton, Ohio.
And it's hard to believe that next week is the final week already, Dennis. Seems like we just started and the summer tour is over already. This match is not over, though, but Berardi needs to get something going here. Down by 14, can cut into that lead, cut it to 4 with a double.
Joey taking a little bit more time and realizing, obviously, he needs to strike desperately here, and it would be a double for his team. Would cut the lead to 4.
A little better shot this time. And knocks that 10-pin out of there.
Well, we mentioned there's a split on that middle finger up near the final index, and it's obviously very sore. I wonder if Billy's taking a look at that finger and realizing it's a little sore.
And did you see that patch on almost the palm of his hand, or the pad there? That's where the ball rests. I never got one there. It seemed like all the guys that turned the ball got one there. Semiz to take the lead, and does.
And Teata runs this one out. Be careful there, old fella. Don't get yourself too cranked up too early. Teata Semiz, what a competitor.
Billy Walden looking for his first strike in the championship game. Wants to help contribute to his partner. This is to take the lead back. Gives a lot of room, but it's going high. He threw it right, but it hooked early. It's a little drier when he gets it out right around that first arrow. And he has not struck on the right lane yet.
Mike,
really,
this is
I really think he needs to make a move left, Danny.
This is the 4th game now. Billy Walden has been basically shooting the same line. Do you think that maybe he's to the point now where he's broken it down where he's going to have to move?
I really do, yes. And
So Walden converts on the cross alley spare on lane 12, and the team of Walden and Wunderlich right now leading, or I should say trailing by 4.
Wunderlich bowling on lane 11. His team trailing by 6 pins. It's 6-frame action right now. He's perfect on this lane. Needs to strike so that his partner can have a chance to make the adjustment on lane 12. And gets the right hit. Wunderlich, I think that is now 16 out of 19 that he has. Team of Berardi and Semiz now leading by 6 pins. Berardi, who seemed to make the adjustment on the right lane, getting up now in lane 12. His team can increase their lead to 16 if he can carry one more.
Joe Berardi looking to double for himself and continue the string and make it 4 strikes. Gotta hurry, and it's down.
Big shot there. Right now, the wink link is Billy Walden. Comes in light, watch the 6-pin, knocks out that 10 as Berardi gets in our way. We see the reaction of Joe Berardi. Yes. Still a very tight match. Teata Semiz, perfect on lane 11. Every ball right in the 1-3. This is to increase the lead to 26. High. Is he going to get a break? Well, he did. He broke up the split but left the 7-pin.
And that was near disaster on the left-hand lane. I think maybe Teata was trying a little bit too hard on that shot.
He really wanted that one. Exactly right. Yeah.
Teata with a high game this week of 269. The team match play record of Semiz and Berardi, 14-4, by far the best of the television finalists. Which means they bowled pretty well in the clutch all week long.
Exactly what I was thinking. At the spare, has it easily. And right now is almost the most important shot of the match right now. We're in the 7th frame. Billy Walden, who has only hit the pocket 1 time on this right lane, looks up at the score. Let's see if he makes some kind of an adjustment on this right lane to move maybe a little left or a little more loft, something. High again, Brooklyn, and got the break. You can't count on those forever, though.
Billy Walden said something to his partner, Steve Wunderlich. I think he said something like 2 a game or 2 more. But not the greatest effort in the world by Billy Walden. But the result, as you see it, a strike.
Well, look at his reaction.
Had it all the way, he said.
This is to take the lead. Wunderlich again taking a lot of time before he gets up on the approach. Perfect this game on this lane. It's been almost perfect the entire night. Down on the knee, takes the lead.
Well, what more can you say? An outstanding effort by the team of Walden and Wunderlich, and now they have a turkey, and they lead by 5. Pressure swings back now to the team of Semiz and Berardi. Joe Berardi on the right-hand lane, and Joey told me, Denny, I can't lose tonight. It's my son's birthday today.
That's right, he told me that.
He's trying extra hard, no question about that. Lets it go. It's going to hurry, and Joey didn't even react. He knew all the way that was solid 10 in the pit.
He's forgotten all about that finger right now, I'll tell you what. Big shot here now coming up in the 9th frame by Teata Semiz. Team trailing by 5 pins, going at a 215 pace, potential 245 if he gets this one. Take the lead and set it up for the 10th frame. Gave it a lot of room. Gets the right hit. Boy, did he get a break on that one.
We've
Not
got
the best
ourselves a seesaw battle, but Mike, in the pressure like that, isn't it the old saying, trust is a must? You got to give it a little room to get it to the right. I mean, it's better than tugging it a little bit, isn't it?
Well, let's see if Billy Walden follows that advice and gives it a little room here on this right lane. He has just really not been close except for one frame.
The pressure is really building here in the title match.
Biggest shot right here. Gave it room. He gave it room. And it still went high, and he left the 4-6-10. And he threw that ball wide of the first arrow, and it still came back high.
And the hopes of Wunderlich and Walden dashed with a split in the ninth.
See, the difference was that he tried to do it by throwing the ball wider rather than moving with his feet. He just did not make the move with his feet. I don't think, anyway. Gave it a shot, doesn't convert it, and his team is almost buried. Goes down 20 pins. The best they can get is 215. Wunderlich would have to strike out to make Joe Berardi mark.
Steve Wunderlich has been superb all evening long. And there you see the scoreboard. Pretty much tells the story. Steve Wunderlich, should he strike out, would shoot 215.
And he's been perfect on this left lane. Billy Walden has one strike in the match, and that was a crossover. Keeps his team alive, barely.
Billy upset with himself, obviously, as he watches his pupil on the left-hand lane, Steve Wunderlich. And I'm sure that Billy would just love to have that shot in the ninth back.
Well, Billy Walden's an experienced player. He must have thought that he was making the right adjustment. Just personally thought that he should have moved the feet. You know, it's hard to do in a crucial shot like that. Sometimes you're afraid of moving too much. This is the crucial shot for the team of Walden and Wunderlich. Wunderlich must strike. It's high. And that does it.
As
Berardi.
Semiz leans over to his partner, Joe Berardi, they shake hands. They're glancing at the scoreboard, and they both breathe a sigh of relief. And they still look a little nervous at this point, Mike.
Well, it's virtually all over. They're going to finish, if he converts this split, at 205. Again, all they have to do is keep the ball on the lane. 204 they wind up with. Commendable effort, but it's just not going to be quite enough tonight. Berardi just stay behind the foul line, keep the ball on the lane.
Joe Berardi asking Chuck Pisano, our television coordinator, what do I need, Chuck, to capture this PBA title in terms of how many pins?
He's got enough right now. Right through the heart, breaks it up, gets 9, and says that's enough.
And he looks at his doubles partner, Teata Semiz. It's the first time I think I've seen Teata smile all week long. Steve Wunderlich and Billy Walden congratulating the champions. Wunderlich and Walden, what a run here this evening, Mike Durbin. They nearly pulled it off.
Nearly pulled it off.
Spare for Berardi in the ninth, but it's all academic at this point. And Joe Berardi, whose last victory was 1983. The Firestone Tournament of Champions. It's been a while since he's captured a title.
I remember that. He knocked me off.
No, it wasn't you, was it?
Well, I was one of them.
Sure, Henry Gonzalez was top 2. Joey throws the frozen rope for the final shot in the 10th. And the final score, 224 to 204. So Berardi and Semiz capture the $130,000 Columbia Senior Pro Touring Doubles Championship.
And they did it in style and did it with class.
And we'll be back to talk with the champions, Teata Semiz and also Joe Berardi, in just 1 minute.
Durbin back at the Super Bowl in Erlanger, Kentucky, and we see Billy Walden bowling in the 9th frame of the final game. Needed this strike to keep his team in the match. Been struggling on the right lane the whole time. Tried to throw it wider and hoped that he can make the proper adjustment. The ball hits about the 6th board, goes out to maybe the 5th, starts hooking high right here, right through the heart of the pins. The 4-6-10 stands, and that just about handed the match to Semiz and Berardi. We see the final score, 224 to 204. Our champions are Joe Berardi and Teata Semiz, and with them right now is Denny Schreiner.
And here they are, the champions of the $130,000 Columbia Senior Touring Bros Championship. Joe Berardi and also his partner, Teata Semiz. One quick question before we get to the presentations. Now, be honest about this. Who was the horse, Joey? Was it you or the guy to my left?
Well, they say every horse needs a rider, and I guess I was the jockey this week.
You rode him all the way to the title, and to present a pair of just absolutely gorgeous trophies is Miss Connie Smoot. Come on out, Connie. She is Vice President of Advertising for Columbia 300 Industries. Connie, make the presentation to our doubles champions.
Well, it's been my pleasure all week to spend a few days with these gentlemen, and it's not only these gentlemen. I wish I had 10 trophies to present to all of the finalists. It would be my pleasure to do so. As I have only 2, Joe, I'd like you to have 1.
Thank you, Connie.
Teata.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Well, matching trophies for the boys in blue. Teata, obviously a very exciting week for you and Mr. Berardi. And now stepping out will be the proprietor of Super Bowl lanes here in Erlanger, Kentucky, Mr. Doug Martin. And I know, Doug, you have some good news and some mail for these 2 gentlemen.
I certainly do. I know this is what they've been working hard for the last 5 days. And Joe and Teata, you and all the other pros, we've enjoyed hosting you here this week in Northern Kentucky. And you've treated all the people, the bowling fans in Northern Kentucky, Greater Cincinnati, to some excellent, excellent bowling all week long. And we'd like to present these checks to you. $12,500 to you, Joe.
Thank you.
Great bowling.
Thank you very much.
And Teata, you as well, $12,500. Great shooting.
Thank you.
Great tournament.
Well, before we get a chance to recap and find out exactly what happened in tonight's title match, we're going to take a short break here, but we'll be back with the 2 guys who just captured this championship. Welcome back, everybody. And Teata, I know it's difficult to win a singles title on the PBA National Tour, but how tough was it to win the doubles?
Well, it was tough. I just tried to get my game together, and I'll tell you, if you saw me 2 weeks before I came out here, I was really bowling bad, and a couple guys helped me, like Freddie Borden from Ohio, and I called him up, and he told me what to do with my hand position, and I'll tell you what, it worked pretty good this week.
Sure did, didn't it, Joe?
I'm not complaining at all.
Speaking of hands, Joe, you had a little problem with your middle finger. What happened, and how did you adjust for it?
Well, yes, I've just changed all my equipment. I was in a slump prior to this week, or prior to a couple of weeks. And during the practice shots, I split open my middle finger. And Billy Hall, who's always around when I need him, patched it up, and it felt well, and enabled me to make shots cleanly.
As you were watching over there in the waiting in the wings, as Harry Golden always says, were you worried about the team of Wunderlich and Walden?
Well, Billy's a great bowler, and I feel that Steve can throw more strikes than anybody on tour. But this game has no defense, and if I knew that if we went out and made 10 good shots between us, we'd be standing here talking to you and Denny.
Well, you certainly are standing here talking to us. I want to congratulate both of you. You bowled outstanding. You deserve to be the champions.
Thank you, Mike. And I'd like to thank Doug Martin for hosting this tournament at Super Bowl, and I'd like to thank Columbia for enabling Teata and I to have such a lucrative week, really. And one more thing, I just want to say happy birthday to my son, Joey. He's 4 years old today.
Before we go, Teata, do you have anybody at home that you'd like to say hello to in a hurry?
I'd like to say hello to my wife, Ginger, and my 17-month-old son, and also my 7-week-old daughter, who had a heart operation Monday. And to tell you the truth, I might have never made it here, but everything came out fine.
I know you got a call from your wife on Monday, right in the middle of qualifying. She told you that everything had gone well, but obviously your thoughts were with your daughter.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. And I also want to thank Columbia and Doug Martin. They run a hell of a tournament. Thanks a lot.
And thanks to everybody here for an outstanding event as Teata Semiz and Joe Berardi win. So long, everybody, from Erlanger, Kentucky. Tonight's telecast has been brought to you by Bud Light, a light beer with the first name and taste. Everything else is just a light. By True Value Hardware, more than just a name, it's their way of doing business. By Seagram's Wine Cooler, it's wet and it's dry.